Charlo says he wants to be the king of the jungle.
There's no way you can tame a lion. And that's me.
And that's me.
The power is for real.
And the entire sport of boxing is hearing Charlo's roar.
What?
He is the king of this jungle.
Lions only, baby.
Jermall Charlo versus Dennis Hogan for the Middleweight Championship on Showtime.
3, 2, 1.
Party at the Gallagher house.
Haven't touched you yet, Frank.
You're a disgrace, Gallagher.
Thank you, sir.
Man, this is what I thought living in LA was going to be like.
Ray Donovan. This was 25 years ago, I'd have put a gun to your head.
Woo!
Ho, 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 and away we go. If you don't know, now you know. Welcome to the official weigh-in for our triple header coming your way Saturday night. Showtime Championship Boxing culminating with a middleweight title defense by the undefeated Jermall Charlo as he defends against Dennis Hogan. I am Mauro Ranallo. 'Tis the season to be Paulie, as in Paulie Malignaggi, and Father Christmas. Yes, a man who believes that Christmas starts in October. Brian Campbell also on the panel, so we'll get into all of the action. We're bringing you two big cards to wrap up the year here in the month of December, beginning tomorrow night at 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific, with streaming prelims coming your way earlier in the evening. But right now, we've been told that it is official. All 6 athletes about to weigh in, so without further ado, let us go to the International Boxing Hall of Fame ring announcer, Jimmy Lennon Jr.
Ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon to you, and we welcome you to Brooklyn, New York, as Premier Boxing Champions presents the official weigh-in for our big night of action taking place tomorrow night at Barclays Center, live on Showtime. And our big night of action is all brought to you by Lions Only Promotions, TGB Promotions, and Showtime. And we begin our weigh-ins with our opening attraction on Showtime, 12 rounds of boxing for the interim IBF Junior Featherweight World Championship. At this time, please welcome our fighters as they make their way to the stage. First, joining us from Kashiba, Chiba, Japan, he is the IBF #1 ranked world contender, the former IBF Junior Featherweight Champion of the World, Ryosuke Iwasa. And his opponent now joining us to the stage at this time, hailing from Capatagan, Lanao del Norte, ranked the IBF #3 world contender, the former WBO Bantamweight Champion of the World, introducing Marlon Nightmare Tapalas. And it's time to bring our fighters to the scale at this time. Weight limit is 122 pounds. First, with a record of 26 wins, 3 losses. He has 16 wins coming by way of knockout. The former IBF Junior Featherweight Champion of the World, Ryosuke Iwasa. $121.6, we're going to call that 121.5 pounds, 121.5 pounds for Iwasa. And now his opponent with a record of 33 wins, 2 losses, 16 wins coming by way of knockout, the former WBO Bantamweight Champion of the World, Marlon Nightmare Tapalas. 121.4, we're going to call that 121.5 pounds. 121.5 pounds for Marlon the Nightmare Tapales. And there they are, ladies and gentlemen, Marlon the Nightmare Tapales versus Ryosuke Iwasa. 12 rounds are opening attraction on Showtime for the interim IBF Junior Featherweight World Championship. Tomorrow night, live at Barclays Center here in Brooklyn, New York. All right, fans, here we go. We're ready to bring our next fights up onto the stage and then onto the scale. From Brooklyn, Premier Boxing Champions presents the next weigh-in for our next attraction. Once again, brought to you by Lions Only Promotions, TGB Promotions, and Showtime. We're going 12 rounds for the interim WBA Middleweight World Championship. First, please welcome to the stage at this time, fighting out of Florida by way of Orotukan, Russia, the battle-ready veteran, ranked the WBA number 3 middleweight in the world. Please welcome Matt Korobov. And his opponent we invite up to the stage at this time, hailing from Brighton, Sussex, England, the former British and WBA international champion, making his U.S. professional debut. Please welcome the WBA number 1 ranked middleweight, known as Next Gen, Chris Eubank Jr.
Still Snoop Dogg and D.I.
And at this time, we bring our fighters to the scale. 160 pounds is the weight limit. First, with a record of 28 wins, 2 losses, and 1 draw, he has 14 wins coming by way of knockout. The WBA number 3 ranked middleweight, introducing Matt Korobov. 159 pounds, already 159 for Matt Korobov. And now to the scale with a record of 28 and 2, 21 knockouts, the WBA number 1 ranked middleweight contender, Next Gen, Chris Eubank Jr.
Still Snoop Dogg and D.I.
Guess who's back?
Still doing that, Andre?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Check me out. It's still Dre Day, AK. Though I've grown a lot, can't keep it home a lot. Cause when I frequent the spots that I'm known to rock, you hear the bass from the truck when I'm on the block. Ladies, they pay homage, but haters say Dre fell off. How? My last album was The Chronic. They wanna know if he still got it. They say raps change. They wanna know how I feel about it.
You ain't up on pace.
Dr. Dre is the name. I'm ahead of my game still.
159.4 pounds, 159.4. We're gonna call that 159.5 pounds for Next Gen Chris Eubank Jr.
Still doing that, Andre?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Check me out. It's still Dre Day, AK. Though I've grown a lot, can't keep it home a lot. Cause when I frequent the spots that I'm known to rock, you hear the bass from the truck when I'm on the block. Ladies, they pay homage, but haters say Dre fell off. How? My last album was The Chronic. They wanna know if he still got it. They say raps change. They wanna know how I feel about it.
You ain't up on pace.
Dr. Dre is the name, I'm ahead of my game. Still puffin' my leaf, still with the beats. Still not loving police. Still rock my khakis with a cuff and a crease. Still got love for the streets, reppin' 213. Still the beats bang, still doing my thing. Since I left, ain't too much change.
Still, I'm representing for them gangsters all across the world.
Still
hitting them corners and them lolos, girl.
Still taking my time to perfect the beat. And I still got love for the streets. It's the DRE.
I'm representing for them gangsters all across the world.
Still
hitting them corners and them lolos, girl.
Still.
And there they are, ladies and gentlemen, 12 rounds for the interim WBA Middleweight World Championship Next Gen. Chris Eubank Jr. versus Matt Korobov. And now we have Showtime broadcaster and reporter Steve Farhood. A couple of questions for our fighters.
Matt Korobov, there are people already talking about your opponent, Chris Eubank, fighting for a world championship. He hasn't fought you yet. Is this added motivation for you that you're being discounted?
Yes, of course. It's a big motivation. It's a title fight, no doubt. So I'm really happy to be here again. So we're ready to show and prove that I'm going to be a next WBA champion.
Tell us how and why you're going to beat Chris Eubank.
I'll show you tomorrow. All right? We'll see you Saturday night. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Good luck. Chris Eubank Jr., 159 and change. First time you've made middleweight in about 3 years or so. How do you feel now physically compared to how you felt when you made 168 pounds?
I feel great, man. I was eating all throughout the night last night. I was sipping on water all day today. This is my natural weight. I'm not fighting a guy that's 20 pounds heavier than me on a night. Now I'm fighting a guy that's my size, and it's going to show. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to stop this kid.
You were doing a little talking there during the stare-out. What were you saying?
I'm just letting them know what's coming. You know, I'm not out here to play. This is my first fight in the US, first fight in New York. It's a dream come true, and I'm going to come out here and I'm going to make an explosive statement to the middleweight division, and then I'm coming for all the belts after that.
Your first fight in the USA, I know you've been here a lot. Also a lot of pressure because, as you said, this could lead to a world title fight against the winner of our main event. What exactly would you like American fight fans to be saying about you tomorrow morning when they wake up after watching your fight?
You know, I've actually just been told that this will now be a world title fight. Apparently Canelo Alvarez has stepped down. So, you know, this is actually going to be for the actual title. That's what I've been told. But yeah, you know, this is just this is an amazing introductory fight for me. I'm gonna go out there. I'm gonna introduce myself as the next kingpin of the middleweight division. You know, I've been fighting at 168 for the last 3 years. I'm IBO super middleweight world champion, but I'm not super middleweight. This is my natural weight. I feel good. I feel strong, and I'm gonna take these guys out.
Appreciate it, Chris Sr., a great champion in his own right. His dad standing over here to the right. Thank you. Good luck.
Well, fans, here we go. Premier Boxing Champions presents the official weigh-in for our featured bout of the evening, brought to you by Lions Only Promotions, TGB Promotions, and Showtime. Our main event is 12 rounds for the WBC Middleweight Championship of the World. First, we invite the challenger to the stage, fighting out of Australia by way of Ireland, ranked the WBC #5 middleweight in the world. Please welcome Dennis Hurricane Hogan. And And now we invite the defending champion to the stage from Houston, Texas, a two-division world champion and the current reigning WBC middleweight champion of the world, Jermall Charlo. And it looks like the challenger is ready to step onto the scale at this time. Weight limit is 160 pounds. Here he is making his second attempt at a world title. The crafty challenger, the WBC number 5 contender, Dennis Hurricane Hogan. 158.4, we're going to call that 158.5 pounds. 158.5 pounds for the challenger, Dennis Hogan. And now his opponent making his 6th world title appearance, the hard-hitting, undefeated WBC middleweight champion of the world, Jermall Charlo.
Mr. Pizza.
159.8 pounds, 159.8. We'll call that 159 3/4 pounds for the champion Jermall Charlo.
Made the wrong move, get you knocked out. Ready now, show me my opponent. Everybody know we lines on. Everybody know we lines on. Everybody know we lines on. Who they want prize with a big dog? Made the wrong move, get you knocked out. Ready now, show me my opponent. Everybody know we lines on. Everybody know we lines on. Everybody know we lines on. Hungry right now, I need a big plate. Still want more when I just ate. Look him in the eyes and grow the heart rate. Boy, I smell blood, that's a mistake. Beast mode, boy, you got the wrong one. Whole gang on 10 and we on 1. 10 toes solid, homie, we the known ones. From the bottom, I got him froze up. Yeah, I heard the stories about you really hit the ground, but you playing quit lying to a king. Married to the game, I ain't changed. Been with all of the smoke, I just brought it to the ring. Sitting at the throne, had to make it on my own. Remember days I was alone, trying to make it. Really went through hell, can't you see that I prevailed? That's the reason why these other people say that. Hold up, got them in the matrix. Keep running your mouth and I'ma lace it. I can see the fit these boys faking. Body on the floor, dead patient. I don't got no time for no patience. If it's a problem, addressing that where you stay shit. 10 toes solid every day, I'll make a promise.
And there they are, ladies and gentlemen. It's the main event of the evening, live on Showtime. The WBC Middleweight Championship of the World, Jermall Charlo, Dennis Hogan. And Steve Farhood is ready to ask the questions of the fighters in our main event of the evening. Looks like we're beginning with Jermall Charlo.
There are a lot of Irish fans in New York. They're not at this weigh-in because everybody is chanting Charlo.
Yeah, it's Charlo's, it's Lions only forever.
You told us at the fighter meetings you have a little unique motivation for this fight because you had a daughter born 3 weeks ago. Tell us why that serves as unique motivation.
Look, I fight for my family, I fight for my life. You're gonna be fighting for your life tomorrow, boy. Yeah. Talk that shit tomorrow. Yeah. You better talk, you better be this fucking bold tomorrow. Yeah. You know who you stepping in front of. You know who the fuck I am. You know you stepping in front of. You'll see tomorrow. Yeah, you gonna see tomorrow.
Jermall, you had a very spirited stare out. What did you see in his eyes?
He ain't shit. He ain't shit. He hype. He letting these little hype ass. Yeah. Look, Hogan. Shut the fuck up. Y'all know what it is. It's Lions only.
Good luck. Dennis Hogan, 158 and change. How do you answer the critics who say you're simply too small to fight Charlo?
Oh, I've showed up. I'm here. I'm ready to go. You know what I mean? Who cares what anyone else says? I'm here. I'm ready. Let's do it.
What do you make of all this pre-fight hype with and the language?
It's all about me and my destiny. This is about me being world champion. That's all. That's all noise. Well, you see tomorrow night. That's noise.
Tell us how you're going to beat the bigger fighter.
Sorry.
Tell us how you're going to beat the bigger fighter.
I'll just have to bring something that no one else has brought before, and that's exactly what I intend to do, and we will do that.
We wish you luck. Thank you, Dennis. Throw it back to Mo.
Hello. Can you hear me? Because I can't hear myself. So hopefully we're on the air, ladies and gentlemen. Things are already hotter than chestnuts roasting on an open fire. And you guys can hear me? Because I can't hear a thing. And I don't know if I want to hear anything after what we heard on the stage. Obviously, Dennis Hogan coming in to challenge for another title. Hogan getting a bit of a Hogan pop in New York, Brian Campbell.
Look at that.
You can relate to
This
that
is the site of the title change in 1984.
In any event, obviously the time for talk is now over, Paulie and Brian. And Dennis Hogan comes in. Really, many people thought he should have won against Jamie Munguia when Munguia had his homecoming as a champion earlier this year at 154 pounds. Hogan was, according to some people, robbed on the scorecards, but nevertheless gets another opportunity, now moving up at weight at 160. And for Jermall Charlo, well, he's a dad again. His wife gave birth to a daughter, Journey. Told us that he was going to clean up his language during the fighter meeting. Didn't necessarily do that, but in any event, how do you see this fight playing out Saturday night with Charlo now at 4-0 at 160 pounds, Paulie? But despite being known as a knockout artist, has gone the distance his last two fights against Matt Korobov, when Korobov filled in for Willie Monroe Jr. last December here in Brooklyn, when Monroe Jr. failed the drug test. And in his last fight against, well, in his homecoming, Brandon Adams, Charlo said he hurt his left hand early in the fight. Is there cause for concern when it comes to Charlo's power at 160?
You know, with the injured hand, I mean, that's obviously something you can keep in mind. It's, you know, it's almost excusable that you can't get a guy out of there when you have an injured hand. But at the same time, you know, this is a new weight class, and sometimes, you know, you're fighting with naturally bigger guys, and sometimes, you know, that can also impede your ability to get knockouts that you were getting in the smaller weight classes. Nonetheless, Hogan is a guy who's coming up from that lighter weight class. He's coming up from a weight class that Charlo used to also be a part of, which is light middleweight. And although I would say Hogan's having a good run of form lately, you know, I thought he won the Munguia fight, and he's done well of late. Obviously, this is also a step up for him, because Charlo, in my eyes, is also a level above Munguia, who is the champion himself.
Right, and we talk about Hogan coming up, but Hogan began his career as a light heavyweight, only 7 knockouts. And Brian, when you look at a statistic like that, looking at a guy like Charlo who's known for some pop, does that concern you?
Well, really, it's who Dennis Hogan is. And at this weight class, he's come out and said, I like going to 160. I can be much more powerful. I can build up that weight, not have to cut down as far as 154. So he expects to have more pop. But more, that's really not his style with just 7 knockouts at this point in his career. His style is the style that trainer Glenn Rushton has put upon him, has put upon former welterweight champion Jeff Horn. They call it the broken rhythm pressure method style. What does that mean? It means constant chaos, footwork, speed, in and out, disruption. In fact, Dennis Hogan went to the level of told us in the fighter meetings, when he doesn't know what he's going to do next, that's when he knows he's in a rhythm and he's on a roll. This isn't going to come down to him hurting or stopping Charlo. It's whether he can frustrate the bigger man and the bigger puncher.
And what is the key then to too frustrating a guy like Charlo when you come in the form of a guy like Hogan?
Well, you know, Charlo is a jab-first guy, you know, so you want to first and foremost try to eliminate that jab, or at least try to disrupt the effectiveness of it. And of course, like we were just discussing with the distance changes and the physicality of and maybe some different kind of pressure and whatnot. You know, these are things that can possibly dissuade the jab and make the jab possibly not land, or, you know, counter it a little bit better if you're able to create doubt a little bit in Charlo's jab. There's different things you have to do, but if Charlo gets that jab going, which obviously he's going to be a jab first guy, and he's going to be looking for it, then it's going to be a lot harder for Hogan to win the fight, because behind the good jab, Charlo starts tagging you with good right hands as well, and it also keeps him in rhythm. So you want to disrupt that rhythm, but the first thing to disrupt that rhythm is trying to negate Charlo's jab, or at least minimize it.
Yeah, and of course, Hogan facing the bigger guy, bigger reach, bigger height, but Hogan's also fared well against guys who are 6 feet and have the reach advantage due to his grittiness, due to the fact that he will try to chew up as much of the real estate. When you look at the fight, Brian, obviously Charlo the big favorite. What is the one intangible that you're looking for from each fighter?
Look, for Charlo, and this is really going to both Charlo brothers, they're one of the biggest talents in this sport. They've shown you that potential to leap out and become not just pound-for-pound threats, but crossover celebrities. They can punch, they can box, they got speed. But when they've had problems and had fights that have been maybe closer than they should have been, I think it comes down to not throwing enough punches. I think we saw that for Jermall against Matt Korobov in that very close fight last December, and Jermall has said it himself. If Dennis Hogan can't get inside my jab, he's got nothing for me. But what if Dennis Hogan can control the pace and the rhythm? If he can lower Charlo's output, that's going to give him his best chance to have a say on those scorecards. One thing Jermall told us is you can't run and win at the same time, but it's going to be up to those three guys sitting at ringside if Dennis Hogan can lower Charlo's output and make this more of a point fight.
All right, now that is the main event. Charlo defending the middleweight title, and do we even want to get into the fact that he's the full middleweight champion now? Because, well, we know the alphabet organizations, they like to give out titles like fast food franchises like to give out franchises. Canelo, now a franchise champion, whatever that means. But we also now know that we're trying to set things up here. We have a middleweight main event, and we also have Chris Eubank Jr., another guy moving to middleweight from 168, making his American debut, although Eubank has spent a lot of time in Las Vegas at the Mayweather boxing gym, going way back to when he was 17. He takes on Matt Korobov, who we have mentioned already. Korobov faced Jermall Charlo a year ago just here at Barclays, and a lot of people, because Charlo's twin brother had been dethroned by Tony Harrison earlier in the night, we didn't see the best Jermall Charlo in that fight either, although he did defeat Korobov. Korobov now comes in again as the B-side against Eubank. Set this matchup for us, Brian.
I love this fight. This fight is so well matched, so much potential for a competitive out here, and you've got the amateur background, the pure boxing of what Matt Korobov does well, even though he can be a hulking fighter when he needs to. But he's slow and calculated, and up to this point, Chris Eubank has the name, he's got the flair of a star, but he doesn't always do it on the end as a boxer. He's an athletic puncher who goes after you. He's moving down in weight from 168 pounds to what he calls his natural foundation at 160. This, to me, feels like boxer versus puncher the whole way. And while Chris Eubank comes in and says, I'm going to make a U.S. debut that ends with a bang, he's going to have to really set traps and land that punch on Korobov, because Korobov's team told us if they can punch, move, hold, that's their kind of fight.
Yeah, Korobov over 300 amateur fights, a 2008 Russian Olympian. Paulie, we talk about Eubank at 168. Now, at 160, he is 6-1 in his career. The lone loss coming to current 168-pound champion Billy Joe Saunders. Talk about his move down to 160 and what he brings to his American debut.
You know, he seems like he has pretty good power even at super middleweight. So you would think at middleweight, if he's not struggling to make the weight, he's going to carry down some good power as well down to the middleweight division. But one thing you have to understand with Eubank so far, he's not shown himself to be that great of a combination puncher. He's kind of a look for one big shot kind of guy. He looks to create chaos and be very physical with you. You know, we were talking about Korobov on the inside, maybe holding a little bit, but Eubank is not going to accept those clinches that easily. He's going to look to make it a muscle fight, look to make it a really kind of a dog fight on the inside. From the outside, though, Korobov has a lot of advantages because Eubank tends to get stuck into that looking for one big shot at a time situation, and Korobov gives you different angles. Let's face, this is a former amateur world champion. He's got amateur wins against guys like Danny Jacobs, just to name a few. You know, so I think the pedigree of Korobov can be a big big problem for Eubank if Eubank is not able to disrupt it a little bit with that physical style. And in order to make that style physical and be rough, you got to get inside and do some damage, or you've got to be a combination, punching with a little bit of combinations on the outside. Things that we would like to see Eubank do if he's going to be successful. But let's see if Korobov can negate him.
So we got 2 middleweight fights coming our way on Saturday night. And Brian, a lot of people, including Jermall Charlo, taking umbrage with the fact that, yeah, Chris Eubank Jr., obviously the son of boxing royalty, former 2-division champion, his dad, Carl Eubank Sr. But is this the setup now, the winner of Eubank Jr. Korobov to get the winner of the main event? Is that what you think is happening?
I'm no booker, matchmaker, or promoter, although, look, I'm available. But the point is, look, it would seem to make sense in this point. Jermall Charlo can get through this title defense against Dennis Hogan. Both of those guys in the co-main event are attractive opponents. Why? Because Korobov's already shown that he can test Jermall Charlo in a fight that looked like it could go either way entering those championship rounds. And who's Chris Eubank Jr., like we established? He's a star. He can talk. He can dress. He's got that big right hand. That seems to me to be a sexy potential fight in the future. One thing Jermall Charlo has said, though, in most interviews leading up to here is, can we stop talking about Chris Eubank Jr.? Because this is the Jermall Charlo show.
Well, Chris Eubank coming off his signature victory. We were there in England over a, let's face it, and I no disrespect, James DeGale, an amazing athlete, first British gold medalist to win a title and has fought his blood and guts. Was not his best night. And so Eubank gets the biggest win of his career. But coming now again, Paulie, you were going to say, talking about all the hubbub about Charlo and Eubank, they do have to fight other opponents Saturday night.
Yeah, and like I said, I mean, for me, Korobov has been been unforgiven for something that, to me, a lot of fighters get forgiven for. You know, he was winning every round of the Andy Lee fight for the world middleweight title. He was knocked out with 1 punch. And it's almost like they never got his career back on track. Again, this was a former amateur world champion with standout wins in the amateurs against some of the biggest names in professional boxing right now. And in a fight he was winning every round, he was knocked out, and it's like they never kind of let him back into the mix. And even to get the Charlo fight last year, he had to come in as the last-minute replacement. Gave Charlo all he could handle, and now he's still being talked about like he's just some guy who's just showing up here to give the guy from England an American debut. I think this is a real fight. I think this could possibly be the fight of the night. And, you know, I think Korobov, even at 36, still feels like he's got so much he wants to show people that people have not appreciated of him. And I think this is a big opportunity
and he's
for him to do
had 2
that.
long breaks of 2 years plus during the last decade in which promotional issues have kept him out of the ring. He's coming off that draw with Emmanuel Lim, who we're going to see on the undercard on Saturday, that really you could have argued should have went Korobov's way. He's hungry. He does a lot of great strengths, like you mentioned. If he's got one potential weakness, though, it's been in recent fights, maybe coming up a little short in the final rounds. Maybe, and that's something that Eubank has pointed out, where he said, look, we can't get him out of there early. We might wait around to see if we can get him out late. And that's the type of fight Chris Eubank will roll the dice and gamble like that. That could be fun to watch.
And that's called being 36 years old.
Well, we obviously set the table for the 2 big middleweight fights. And before we get to our opener tomorrow night, middleweights were in the news again this week. Of course, middleweight division, one of the most storied in boxing history and one of the best 160-pounders ever. Bernard Hopkins was elected into the International Boxing Hall of Fame. Middleweight division record, 20 title defenses. Want to get your thoughts on B-Hop going into the Hall, of course, with so many other great fighters, but let's focus on Hopkins for this moment.
Well, he was a guy who many of us current fighters grew up watching, and even many fighters even after us grew up watching. He's around that long.
28 years.
But I was obviously privileged enough to have seen him during his prime years, during the years where many guys were avoiding him. And also I was there live when he beat Felix Trinidad in the Garden, which was arguably his greatest night. And it was a fight where not a lot of people were believing in him. And forget about not a lot of people believing in him. Even if you have the slightest belief in yourself, going into that building to fight Trinidad on that night, you might lose the little bit of belief you have in yourself. Yet Hopkins came in in an emotionless state and just picked the guy apart and stopped him late. For me, a well-deserved honor of Hopkins going into the Hall of Fame. Truly, many brilliant memories.
Yeah, he's got the sort of a life and career that could be and probably will be a movie one day. So inspirational, turning pro at 28 after getting out of prison and turning his life around. But how about, yes, 20 middleweight title defense is amazing, historic. How about that run at light heavyweight to end his career? Have we ever seen a fighter post 40 who didn't rely on power and relied on technique, performed that well.
And IQ and his brains.
Performed
One of the
that
most
well
cerebral fighters ever. And the fact, on Showtime, we had the privilege of calling this fight against Bubet Shumanov, where he became the oldest person to ever unify titles. But you bring up a good point. Multiple championships at light heavyweight. And for me, of course, Boss Rutan, one of my best friends, a legendary mixed martial arts fighter, known for the liver shot. My highlight for B-Hop was the liver shot delivered to Oscar De La Hoya. All right, so we've got the middleweight division taken care of, but a lot of people really maybe sleeping on the opening fight, where we have a former 118-pound champion in the form of Marlon Nightmare Tapalas of the Philippines, taking on Japanese fighter Ryosuke Eagle Eye Iwasa, a former 118-pound titleist. This one will be contested at 122 pounds. These two are going to try to set the pace, and a high pace at that, to kick things off.
I don't know if fireworks are legal in the state of New York, but buckle up for this fight. Both have said, look, if it gets there, if it gets to that point where I need to fight to win, I will dig in and do it. You got to like the contrast of the smaller Tapalas, southpaw, promoted by Manny Pacquiao, kind of mirrors that aggressive style against the taller fighter in Iwasa. But one thing about Tapalas, he said, is look, fighting a southpaw, I do that all the time. I'm great against southpaws. In fact, everyone they brought in camp this time around, I've either bloodied or broken their nose with that right uppercut. So stay tuned on Saturday night.
And of course, is this America or what? Two fighters from Asia fighting in a big fight in New York. This fight could easily have been over there.
Melting pot.
Well, I love it. We talk about the battle of southpaws. Tapalas has faced only 2 lefties in his last 20 fights, but of course, as you mentioned, Iwasa very comfortable fighting the lefties. So that is a triple header that's coming up Saturday night, 9 o'clock Eastern, 6 Pacific. But we do have some prelim action that you're going to be a part of, Mr. Campbell. Set the table for us.
Yes, Saturday night, 7 p.m. Eastern. Myself and Luke Thomas, co-host, of course, of Showtime's Morning Combat, our MMA and boxing every Monday, 12 p.m. Eastern on YouTube. What we do, we got 2 good fights for you on Saturday night that you're going to want to check out. Steve Farhood, Ray Flores on the call, beginning with that middleweight fight we have to see. Emmanuel Alim getting back into the ring off of that fight with Matt Korobov, getting in there against Ellis. We could be looking at some fun action in that fight as well. And also, what do we have? A female women's minimum weight title bout here on Showtime, a rematch.
Hey, and the women, first time ever, elected into the International Boxing Hall of Fame, Lucia Riker, Christy Martin. So ladies getting their moment as well. And so, hey, I want to appreciate and thank you guys for this moment. But before we wrap things up, holidays are about going home for the holidays. And Paulie, is it in your contract that we have to come to Barclays Center? Because there have been 36 boxing events here at Barclays since the venue opened in September of 2012. The very first boxing event, October 2012, Showtime Championship Boxing. Paulie Malignaggi was on the card. What was it like for you to fight in your hometown of Brooklyn here at Barclays?
Being in Brooklyn and fighting in Brooklyn, I made my pro debut over at what was called Keith Spain Park at the time. Now it's MCU Park underneath the Camacho and Camacho Jr. Jesse James Leahal card. So I had been wanting to fight in Brooklyn in a big fight ever since that night, and I had not been able to. So once the Barclays Center was built and they had said, I remember going to Ukraine and they said, if you can come back with a title, we're going to let you defend it at Barclays Center. And I just knew I have to be part of this building because I'm going to be driving around this building the rest of my life. And if I don't get to fight there, it's going to really be something that it's going to be like something empty in my stomach, you know, so in my heart. And so once I got the title, I remember thinking one of the things I thought about when I got to the dressing room was I cannot wait to defend in Brooklyn. And sure enough, it was every time I fought here in Brooklyn, the reception was great, the crowd was great. And not just for Brooklyn fighters. I think the Brooklyn crowd really loves boxing in general, and they always support. And that's why we've been able to have so many shows here. 5
fights for you at Barclays. Would the Zab Judah victory be the shining moment? I know the big battle with Broner and
I mean, even fights where you come up short, you know, it's
the Broner build-up was something else.
Yeah, Broner build-up. I would have loved to do it again with Broner at that time.
I got to ask you, still have that lineal Brooklyn championship belt? The blue one is up on the mantle?
Yeah, I still got it. All right. It's next to the other ones. But that one was a cool little thing. You know, I even defended it against Tito Bracero because he wanted the shot at the Brooklyn title because he was from Brooklyn, and I was like, all right, I guess. Hey, it became like
our thing. Have a BMF title. We can have the
it became
Brooklyn
like
title.
our thing, exactly.
And of course, we talk about this being the 20th Showtime Championship boxing event at Barclays in 7 years. Incredible. Anyway, for all of us here, we want to invite you to join us again, 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific, Showtime digital platforms for the prelims, and then tomorrow night at 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific, it is a triple header culminating with Jermall Charlo, undefeated middleweight titleist, defending against Dennis Hogan. Join us, 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific, on Showtime.
Charlo says he wants to be the king of the jungle.
There's no way you can tame a lion. And that's me.
The power is for real. And the entire sport of boxing is hearing Charlo's roar. He is the king of this jungle.
Lions only, baby.
Jermall Charlo versus Dennis Hogan for the middleweight championship on Showtime.
3, 2, 1.
Party at the Gallagher house.
Haven't touched you yet, Frank.
You're a disgrace, Gallagher.
Thank you, sir.
Man, this is what I thought living in LA was going to be like.
Ray Donovan. This was 25 years ago, I'd have put a gun to your head.